Today is not the weirdest way I played bingo, but we'll do it. I'm showing. Wache Ramon Kataquapit, Nishnakasan, Arawascut Dostrin, Mikasototem. Hello, I'm Ramon Kataquapit. I'm from Arawascut First Nation, and I'm Eagle Clan. And I'm not too sure who she was talking about, but I do a few things in my life. But one of them I'm going to be focusing mainly today is what's happening with Bill 5 and Bill C5, and a little bit about the history of how we got here and where we want to head. And just to show that poster, we're the seventh fire. And the way that this came, the Okiniwak youth-led movement, was by a fire. And I'll just give you a bit of context of, what I'm representing here today is the movement. And this movement, even though it was sparked by Bill 5 and Bill C5, it was something that was brewing in the pot, and it was a prophecy long foretold about the seventh fire youth that will come and create change and to stand for their people, much like the stick, the staff that represents our movement. And with the movement, we want to advocate for First Nations equity, equality, and environmental stewardship. But that's the beginning. That's where we want to start. Down the line in the future, we want to see this grow into something that can spread not only provincially, not only nationally, but internationally. Something where we can stand together in solidarity against bills that threaten our ways of life and the ways of life of the things around us, like nature and an environment, the animals, and most people may not think of this, but the spirits. Now, with Okiniwak Youth-Led Movement, I'll go with a bit of a history. It's been a long history, 3 months. But about 3 months ago, I was made aware of Bill 5 at a Chiefs Assembly, and I was a youth council member. And a few years back, I kept thinking that something's coming for the land. Something's coming for the land. And then when this bill was mentioned in the Chiefs Assembly, that's what I knew that, okay, it's here. I remember jokingly asking another youth council member, hey, if I started a movement, would you join me? They're like, what? What for? And I couldn't tell them. But within that few weeks, I didn't know that it would come to me. And I made my way over to Toronto as it was being read over to be passed. And I somehow snuck my way in along with our Grand Chiefs and our chiefs. And I just watched the way how they bulldozed over our rights, over the voice of Sol Mamakwa, and over the voice of the Grand Chiefs that I respected. And after the bill was passed, you could just see the look on my leadership's face. The chief of Arawabascut, she actually stood up in the gallery up here, and she started screaming to protest it. And then the security came and took her out, along with other chiefs, other leadership, and youth were crying up there. And that did something to me. I felt something just click inside of me, and I just wasn't there. I remember just feeling like this was a dream. And I came outside with the leadership, and then they made a response. The response was, you're going to see us on the ground. You're going to see us stand against this bill. You're going to see us fight. But then they got up and they left. And you want to know who stayed behind? It was the women and the youth. They were right there getting ready to make an encampment, as well as my peers back in Timmins, Ontario, from the Mushkegowuk Youth Council. They sprung right into action within almost the same day to make a rally protesting Bill 5 and C5. And over the next couple of weeks, I was invited to meetings with our leadership discussing emergency responses. But those emergency responses were just statements. It didn't feel adequate enough, and I felt something it kept creeping up on me. This fire, like, I gotta do something. I can't trust them to respond to this as fast as I want them to. And the reason why I was feeling this fire is because the land is something I care about the most, and my people who live off the land. And as a young man, or a child even, I was unaware of most of the things that happened to our people in history because it's not taught easily in school. And when you have a family affected by assimilation, it's not easy to teach to your child. But the more that I grew older, I started to find out what happened to us. The assimilation of First Nations people and our fight for the right to be alive and to be here and to be treated like an equal. And that's something that I didn't know I carried growing up, was that feeling of being less than. I hated going out by myself because it felt like the world hated me for who I was. And then when I got older and found out the things that happened to my family, even my great-grandparent, James Kataquapit, was taken to be a World War I veteran. He didn't speak English. He didn't know much about the outside world, but he went and fought for Canada. Yet they took his children and put him in residential schools from 7 to when they were a young adult. As well as my mother, who was also under assimilation from Indian day schools and boarding homes. So I'm part of that first generation that's outside of this assimilation. So we carry a lot of that pain, that anger. But when we channel it with the fire, that's what helped me with the beginning of this movement. And I started to put the pieces together that Bill 5 and C5 is another piece of assimilation for First Nations people. We've always been experimented on, whether that be physically or through legislation. And I feel that this bill can set a dangerous precedent for the future, for the same thing that happened again for this generation. And I'm even more worried because I know that it's not a fight against First Nations versus Canada, but it's the people versus law. When you have a Bill 5 and a Bill C5 that can override environmental regulations and provincial regulations, what's hidden in that fine print is the right to overwrite our treaties, which is our highest and sacred law that we have with Canada. And if they're able to overwrite those treaties and stomp on our rights, again, that sets a precedent for assimilation to have not only our land jurisdiction resolved or revoked, but to have us and our identity and status with Canada revoked. And it's dangerous when you have a law that can bulldoze over previous legislation. Because I think that after they get through us, they'll be coming for the rest. And that's not to fear-monger, but that's the absolute truth. Oh, thank you. And with this youth movement, I want to be able to stand with my people, the First Nations of Canada, and try to help unify so that we can make sure that when we see something like this, we stop it 10, 20 steps before it turns into something uncontrollable. So that we're not tripping over a response every time something like this smacks us in the face. Because we're already dealing with so much from the past assimilation, from the Indian Act inside of our communities, that it's so hard to have a response for this. We're dealing with so much, but our people are resilient and strong. And we carry these teachings that lead us. Just like the prophecy of the seventh fire or the four natural laws that we follow. And a part of that four natural laws means respecting what's around us and protecting where we're at. And up north in Treaty 9 area, we have the Ring of Fire. And lo and behold, that's where they had our people displaced to, further up north. We had tribes all over before 1900s. That wasn't that long ago. Where they plotted where the Atawabska is right now, and they told all the tribes to be dependent on the Indian agents and to have access to them for the mission schools. And where Atawabska is, and where a lot of these First Nations were displaced to, later down the line, they found out that the ground there is mineral rich. So once again, they come back with this assimilation to have us displaced by starting with our rights. And the thing about these bills is that the rights that we have within the treaty, if we bring that to court against these bills and we lose, that could set a precedent for assimilation again. And that's something that it shouldn't even be like that. Our First Nations are supposed to be sovereign communities, but yet we're under an Indian Act. Yet our governance structure is developed through INAC. And we're so dependent on that government funding and the subsidies that we can't have a proper response, especially when we're fighting so hard on the front lines through different movements to stand against this. Our own organizations that are supposed to represent us are busy trying to cut deals with them. But the one thing with the Okiniwak youth movement, after all these started to go full circle for me in this understanding of where we're at and why we're here, the youth, we decided to represent ourselves. Not through a government, not through a chief and council, but the youth, to youth, from youth. And we started holding rallies in different major hub cities where our people are at to give awareness, to give a platform like this for youth to share to the nation about what's going on. And we held it in Queen's Park, Toronto, right where the bill passed, twice. We held it in Ottawa when the Prime Minister was meeting with the chiefs. We took a group of our youth from Okiniwak and we marched over to the Canadian Museum of History. And we demanded to be let in so we can speak for ourselves. And later down the line, we kept holding it in places like North Bay, assisting in Timmins. We brought it up to Moose Cree First Nation, then Matagami First Nation. And now we're here in Kingston, where we've been here for a week holding different initiatives to get the word out there that there's work being done on this, that it's not forgotten, and that we're not going to wait and get kicked over. Not again. Thank you. And I really appreciate the support that we found here in Kingston, especially with a lot of short notice. We had so much people come out to support us. And I won't lie to you, it's hard finding hope when you know you have a precedent of loss of hundreds of years. But the one thing that I found, especially with organizations like legal advocates for nature's defense, that there's people out there that are willing to stand together because they know how important this work and this job is. And a lot of us, we all have a role. We're all born with something. For me, not even 2-3 years ago, I was such a scared youth. I wasn't able to share my voice like this. I didn't wear the nice thrift store clothes. Yeah, sure. Nor was I able to speak my mind about what I wanted to see change. But a lot of the thing that helped me was having someone there with me that said, you can do it. And everywhere I've gone, people have helped me with that. And I feel like it's creator-led about the things that we have to do. Or even where I'm standing at right now, I wouldn't have thought it was possible. Especially with this avocation, it started all at the Kataquapit River. And at the time, I was a pretty dumb teenager. And, I was hurting myself and hurting others. And I dropped out of school. But when I went back home, it's somewhere where I always felt like this heavy feeling, and I couldn't understand why. And I never felt welcome, even in my own home. But when I came back for Christmas one of those years, my mushroom, he showed me so much acceptance, even though what Canada had done to him, he should be so angry. But the one thing that he really excelled in was being humble and forgiving. And when I was really going through it, when I went back, he was there with me. And he can only speak Cree. The only thing that he can say in English is, "Hey, man." But he told my mom that he was proud of me because he heard I went to college. But he didn't know about what I was doing behind the scenes and that I dropped out and that I fell into addiction. And for some reason, that just hit me in the gut so hard that I knew that I was guilty. And I carried that, and I wanted to make his words true. So I said, okay, this is a new term. I'm going to lock in. And I decided to come back to the culture. I decided to come back to the teachings. But before I could even go anywhere, he passed from COVID. So when I went back up for his funeral, I felt so numb. But then I went back, and I went to go sit at the Kataquapit River. And when I was sitting by that river, things were finally able to come out. And something spoke to me from the water and from the land when I was grieving and hurting. And it told me that I wanted to pay my mushroom back. I wanted to do something for my people. I want to get clean water for my community. And that's where that thought pattern started. That land helped me redirect that grief and pain into something to help the world and the people around me. And it set me down this path to where I'm at now. And the reason why I'm saying this is that we all may feel like we can't do much or make a difference. I know I still feel like that. And that's me being truthful. But yet I still keep going. Because I know that helping the world would make my mushroom proud up there. But also it's something that I've grown to love, was trying to make a difference, even if it felt hopeless. Because if not you, then who? And that's what drives me. And every single one of us in here We might have a box over us that we don't know where it comes from. We don't know who put it on us, but we're born into it. The box is different for every single person. But when you start to realize the outline of your box, you start to understand what if it's a cage you're in or a home you built. And I found that when you want to stand for something and strive for your goal, you have to understand the road you're on and what's blocking you from that. And it might be something that you're carrying or that you were put in that you didn't do yourself. And what I want to do with this movement in the beginning is to help be like one of those eggshell crackers, just hit the top of the youth's box so that they can see some of the light shining through, so they know it's not hopeless, and they can break through the top and be able to stand as the seventh fire, to where they can stand for the people, they can stand for their future, they can stand for the spirits, and they can stand for those that can't talk. Because this prophecy is true, because we're living it right now. I'll take this back. When I was 8 years old, my mom was supporting Idle No More movement, and she held a protest. And I went to go and help her and hold signs. And I had no idea what any of this was or what it meant, but I was holding this poster that said, "We are the seventh fire." And I had no idea how that would come back to me, especially now I'm 23. And I just want to tie it back to where I want to go with the movement, is that I'm hoping to build solidarity and unify our people, because there's a spiritual war going on, and everyone may not believe it. Some people may think that it's government versus First Nations, but it's really that dark versus the light. And whatever religion you believe in or where you come from, there's that battle going on. And I want to be able to help the people who are fighting for their rights. I want to grow with different movements. And down the line, once we're able to stand up, even right now, I want to do what I can to help the people of Gaza as well, because they're experiencing a genocide. And our people have come from that, from hundreds of years. And we've seen just how much this genocide changes faces. And we know a nation without a mask. We want to build that solidarity to stand with the people. And the only way we can do that is by understanding how we can stand ourselves. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for everyone coming here. I wish I could talk a little bit longer, but I'm going to show you a music video. Well, thank you. If you appreciate that, I'll accept $5 EMT. I'm showing. But this was a little bit of a backstory before it starts. This video is called Dusk Till Dawn. And it's a song that I made back in November of last year. I felt like something was coming for us, and I didn't know how to share that to the youth at the time. So I did it through music. And I filmed this video with my mother, so don't expect 4K movie quality explosions, but this is just about what's coming for us and how it feels like the moon. We're up against the moon. While it's hard for us to stand on one leg, we're still going to stand together. So I hope that you're able to just listen to it, you know. Thank you. Miigwech.
Through the door.